All right, let's talk about our cities. We're going to peel back some layers today and look at the hidden messages that are built right into our streets, our parks, our public spaces, and we're going to be drawing on some really fascinating community research out of Calgary to explore this powerful and often kind of invisible force that shapes where we can go and what we can do.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. You've seen a bench like this, right? You walk past it and you just kind of think, that looks really uncomfortable. You know, it might have weird slopes or these armrests that chop it up into tiny little seats.
Well, it turns out that's not a design flaw, it's a feature. That discomfort is completely intentional. It's a quiet but very clear message to certain people. This space isn't for you to get comfortable in. Move along. And that is the core idea behind something called hostile architecture.
So let's put an official name on this thing. What exactly is hostile architecture? Well, it's a term that really gets to the heart of how the design of our cities can be used to control our behavior.
The key thing to get here is that this is not an accident. We're talking about the deliberate engineering of our environment to control who gets to use a public space, and just as importantly, how they get to use it. It's design that's meant to exclude.
Now that we've got the definition down, let's look at some real-world examples. Because I'm telling you, once you know what to look for, you are going to start seeing these subtle forms of control literally everywhere. Okay, so the absolute classic example, the one you've probably seen a million times, is the unsleepable bench. The partitions, the weird angles, how short they are, every single part of it is designed with one primary goal: to make it impossible for someone, especially a person experiencing homelessness, to lie down and get some rest. But it definitely doesn't stop at benches. You might see these little metal fins, some people call them pig ears, stuck on ledges and rails. Those are there to stop skateboarders. Or take a look at these pyramid-shaped stones filling up a nice sheltered alcove. Their only purpose is to stop anyone from sitting down, or maybe getting out of the wind for a minute.
And the methods, oh man, they get really varied and sometimes pretty clever. You might see a big, decorative planter box put right over a heating vent that someone might use for warmth, or garbage cans with special lids that make it impossible to pull out recyclables. Sometimes it's not even something you can see, like using high-frequency sounds that are really annoying to younger people just to get them to, move along.
So yeah, these designs make spaces uncomfortable. But what's the actual real-world impact this has on people? I mean, it goes so much deeper than just being a minor inconvenience. This quote from a community advocate named Fran, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it. This isn't just about discomfort. It's about creating a state of what researchers call forced restlessness. It adds this huge physical and mental weight onto people who are already in incredibly vulnerable situations, denying them something as basic as a moment of rest.
And this picture shows such a crucial connection. The hostility that's physically built into the concrete and steel of our cities often reflects, and you could even say encourages, a wider social hostility. A bench that you can't sleep on sends the same message as graffiti telling people to go away.
As another advocate, TK, points out, these designs don't affect everyone the same way. They are, by their very nature, discriminatory. They target people based on how they look, what they're carrying, and their perceived social status. They create a city where the rules for who gets to rest and who has to keep moving are applied very differently.
So, you have to ask, why? Why do city planners or property owners install this stuff? Well, the official justification usually revolves around ideas of safety and keeping things orderly. So, let's look at the argument for these designs and the powerful arguments against them. The main reason given for hostile architecture usually falls under this bigger strategy called CPTED. The basic idea is that you can design physical spaces in a way that makes people feel safer and discourages crime, mostly by controlling how they're used.
And what's so interesting here is how clearly this lays out the conflict. It's two sides of the same coin. What one person sees as a safety feature to prevent loitering, someone else experiences as an exclusionary barrier that basically criminalizes being poor in public.
And this really gets to the core of the whole debate. Does this approach actually solve any problems, or does it just hide them? Critics argue that instead of offering any real solution, it just pushes people away from public view, and often further away from the very services and support systems that could actually help them. It becomes a classic case of out of sight, out of mind.
So what's the alternative? Is this just how things are? Well, this is where the story gets really inspiring. In cities all over, community members, advocates, and artists are pushing back. They're imagining more inclusive, more humane ways to design the spaces we all share. A really powerful counter-idea is something called the right to the city. This philosophy argues that cities should be designed for the people who live in them, first and foremost, not just for property owners or for commerce. It's about prioritizing how useful a space is for people over how much it's worth as a commodity.
And a key way to do that is through placemaking. So instead of designing against certain behaviors, placemaking is about designing for community. It's about creating public spaces, parks, squares, streets that are welcoming, that are adaptable, that are vibrant, and where everyone feels like they belong.
And this isn't just some academic theory, by the way. The research in Calgary found these amazing, real-world examples of resistance. People are creating online maps to document every single hostile bench and ledge. They're using theater and poetry to tell the stories of people affected. They're writing charters of rights and doing vital outreach work. All of it is about reclaiming the humanity of their city.
So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you're walking through your own town or your own city, take a closer look. Really look at the benches, at the ledges under awnings, at the planters in public squares. What unspoken messages are they sending? And maybe more importantly, who are they sending those messages to? The design of our cities tells a story about what we value, and it's a story that's definitely worth reading closely.